There is a growing niche hobby within this niche hobby of tabletop gaming. I am super late to the party on this one, but I still wanted to talk about it. Most role-playing games are a group experience by default. You invite your friends over, you sit down at a table, and you pretend to be elves and things, and everyone generally has a good time. However, many game creators are trying to answer a really interesting question now. Is it possible to get the same experience while playing solo? I mean, is it even possible to play some of these RPGs without a game master or referee or dungeon master to actually facilitate things? When I initially heard of solo role-playing, I didn't really understand what the point was. I thought if you wanted a solo experience, why not just play a video game? Well, I have since changed my tune and realized that playing games solo can be a pretty unique experience. There are some incredible moments that come from using your own imagination and letting your own thoughts guide the story that you want to tell as you play these games just by yourself. I've also realized that letting your own thoughts guide you comes with some pretty big hurdles that you'll need to get over if you want to get into this strange little corner of the role-playing hobby. There are some pretty broad questions out there, including where do you even start when it comes to solo role-playing? In this video, I want to talk about the advantages and disadvantages that I have noticed in my time solo gaming. I also want to give a few suggestions about where to start based on what kind of experience you're looking to get out of this hobby. By the end, hopefully you'll have a better understanding of what solo gaming is and what kind of solo gaming is right for you. People try solo gaming for a variety of reasons. Maybe your regular gaming group has a very mixed schedule, meaning that you can only actually meet together every once in a while, if you're lucky. On those off weeks when you're not playing the regular game, but still have an itch to play something, maybe you're looking for a way to scratch that itch that doesn't rely on other people and the busy schedules they have. Maybe you have tried video games as a means to replace that group game night, but like so many others, you've realized that it just isn't the same experience. Now you're looking for new avenues that give you the experience that's closer to what you originally imagined. If that's you, I'll let you know straight up, gaming solo is not the same thing as gaming in a group. It cannot replace it, but stick around because there might be something interesting here for you. Maybe you're me, running a consistent gaming group or groups every week or so. And instead of just being satisfied with the few games you own, you get way too overexcited when visiting your local nerd store, buying more RPGs than any decent human being should own. Are you going to play every single one in a group setting? Probably not, but you still are really excited about the ideas you find in these games and want to try them out. If you see yourself in any of those scenarios, then solo gaming maybe can work for you. It's not going to gel with everyone, and some players are going to bounce off of these ideas even when they thought they would like them. And I think that's because talking about solo gaming as one giant hobby is kind of incorrect. There are multiple different ways to play solo games. So let's talk about a few of them and see if any of them pique your interest. So I find that the best way to talk about solo gaming is to divide it into 3 different levels of difficulty. Now, when I say difficulty here, I am referring to the amount of practice it takes to really feel like you're doing it and doing it right. Now, full disclaimer, there is no way to play solo games incorrectly. The only person you're trying to impress is yourself. But that doesn't stop players from feeling a bit self-conscious when they try a game at a difficulty level that they're not really ready for. My goal is to try and have you avoid that pitfall by seeing these 3 levels and choosing which one you're ready for. This first category is great if you are brand new to solo gaming and would like a bit of a handrail while you attempt it. These are solo board games. Many play with groups of players like a normal board game would, but have rules to accommodate just one player going through the game. Some of my favorites in this category are the living card games from Fantasy Flight, which I actually find sometimes play better solo than in a group. At the very least, they play faster. Because there's a lower player count and you're not having to teach new players the rules, these games are actually great for solo play. If you're wanting a more traditional dungeon crawl, then Gloomhaven, the board game, has you covered. Now, I have Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion, which is a trimmed down version of the big old box that you see at most gaming stores. Jaws of the Lion is just a more streamlined version of the larger box. I find it just works better and it fits very nicely in the shelf space that I have. Also, larger board games like Heat, Pedal to the Metal, and Scythe have rules for virtual players, which usually just means an additional deck of cards simulating other player turns in the game. If you see a game like this that has a one-player option that looks interesting, I highly recommend checking them out and seeing what their solo rules are all about. Now, the advantage of this style of play lies in the hard rules given to the solo player. If you see the other two categories coming up and feel like the rules presented in those are a bit too fluffy, a bit too loose, then this first category might be perfect for you. Yes, they are solo games, but they are still board games with hard rules and a definitive beginning, middle, and end. And what makes them a great introduction to the hobby is that you can play these games solo and still feel like you're playing correctly. The second category of solo games, I think, would definitely be these. As opposed to the first category where solo gaming is kind of a neat add-on, these games assume that you'll be playing alone most, if not all, of the time. Now, you might notice that my collection of these solo games is pretty sparse. And, well, that's because most of the ones I have are in PDF form, getting them from places like DriveThruRPG, or itch.io, or some other weird corner of the internet. I prefer to print these rules out when I can, but printing is expensive these days, and I need to be careful with what I choose to make. Now, this category of solo play is pretty broad. It includes things like Rune, which is a fantastic solo game that tries to recreate the feel of a game like Dark Souls or Elden Ring, and in my opinion, does a pretty good job of it. It also includes game books like The Unseen World, in which you play a ghost hunter trying to capture footage of otherworldly spirits. Think Silent Hill or Fatal Frame. A lot of video game references in this video, not sure why. You could also look at the Destiny Quest series by Michael J. Ward, which is a collection of sort of choose-your-own adventure books, but with dice to roll and stats to look at and health to keep track of. That makes it feel a bit more gamey than those traditional choose-your-own adventure books. All of these games I just mentioned have rules that are pretty set in stone, making the goal pretty obvious. But they're not the only ones in this category. For instance, this is The Last Tea Shop, a game that fits on a single piece of paper. In this game, you take on the role of a tea maker, owning and operating a shop on the edge of the afterlife. Contained on this single piece of paper, there is a deluxe edition that I don't have with me, are the rules for telling a really compelling story. However, what that story is exactly is up to you. There are rules here, but try this game out and you'll quickly realize that the story of the game is going to come largely from you, the player, and your imagination as you journal your thoughts and experiences as you meet those that have passed who are coming to your tea shop. Now, I'm showing this one specifically because this single page edition is free to download, and if you want to try out the more abstract version of solo gaming, the one that includes a lot of journaling, a lot of prompt entry, then this might be a perfect on-ramp for you to decide whether or not this is the kind of path you'd like to go on. And this is just one example. There are plenty of solo games where the narrative is told by you, the player. Think about games where you're journaling, writing down different prompts, and following a narrative that you have created. The story is laid out by you, and there are some hard rules, but a lot of rules are a bit more vague to allow you the freedom of telling that story. The advantages to this category of gaming are, of course, that freedom. The way that I play The Last Tea Shop could be totally different from somebody else, and we would both be playing the game correctly. And therein lies one of the disadvantages to this style of solo gaming, because players who like hard and fast rules might struggle with this more fluffy version of solo roleplay. Some games, like Unseen or Destiny Quest or Rune, do a good job of telling the story to you and do have some pretty hard set rails for you to follow. But games like Tea Shop don't really have that. They require more input from you, the player, to really work or function, and that can be pretty intimidating for new solo players. Still, I lump these games all together in the second category because I don't think any of them will leave you hanging. They all will give you some rules that should be able to help you along, whether or not it's the more abstract version of solo gaming like Tea Shop, or the more hard rules gaming like Rune. The creators of these games are going to walk you through the process. But what if you truly want a solo RPG experience, a tabletop RPG experience? Well, now is the time to talk about the third category of solo gaming, the category I actually got started in, and the one that I do not recommend you start in. If you've been researching this topic long enough to come across my humble little video, then I'm willing to bet you've at least heard about GM emulators. These are rule sets that can range anywhere from a single page to an entire series of game books. All of them share the claim that you can play any RPG by yourself without a game master to guide you through the story. At the core of most of these emulators is some kind of random answer generator, usually referred to as an oracle within the game system. It could come in the form of dice or cards, but the general purpose is the same. It's sort of a magic 8-ball that you shake to get an answer out of. You then ask that magic 8-ball oracle answer generator some questions about the RPG you're playing, getting those answers back, and then playing the game that way. These are questions you would usually ask a GM if one was present. This third category of games are usually not games in and of themselves, but rather a layer of additional rules that you stack onto your RPG to give it a solo option. Some RPGs being created nowadays actually come with a purpose-built, in-house solo game emulator that is made by the game designers to be specific with that system. Excellent examples of this include the Solo Dark rules for Shadow Dark, or the Strider mode for the Lord of the Rings RPG The One Ring. Solo rules like this are actually becoming more popular. When they're created in-house, it also means that those solo rules are kind of tailor-made for the game, leading to a more cohesive experience overall. But let's say that you have an RPG that you would like to try solo. Let's also say that that RPG does not have any first-party created solo Game Master emulator. In that case, these universal GM emulators have you covered, sort of. We'll talk about it. The most famous of these is probably this, Mythic 2nd Edition, an entire RPG-sized book of solo rules. These rules are designed to function in any RPG in any setting, and are packed with tons of random tables for you to roll on to ensure that your experience is completely unpredictable. However, if a book like this, packed with charts and other additional things to remember, sounds a little bit intimidating, might I recommend One Page Mythic. This is a trimmed down experience, and if I'm being honest, after trying them both, I actually prefer One Page Mythic to its much chunkier cousin. Or if you don't like charts at all, you could try the Recluse engine, which also, like Tea Shop, fits on a single page. That is backwards. Fits on a single page. This emulator works by rolling 2 or 3 dice and then checking which number of those dice is higher. It is a super simple dice resolution system, but tacked on is a very, very interesting random event generator, which works by having you question the very question that you asked it. Super cool. Now, the advantages to this category of solo play are the complete and total freedom it gives you, even when compared to the second category of solo games. You can make literally any story you want with these emulators. Play any of the RPGs that you have bought but haven't found the time to play. Let your imagination run wild with ideas, and no one can stop you. Fantastic. It can also be really, really confusing. Namely because this style of play can take a lot of practice to feel like you're doing it right. Especially if you try a chunky rule system like Mythic and tie it to an even chunkier RPG. Please don't do that. I see a lot of people online suggesting Mythic, and let's be clear, it's about as comprehensive as you can get. Just a metric ton of random tables to get your imagination going. But as an entryway to the hobby, I kind of feel like it would just make new players feel like they're playing badly, as they inevitably mess up one of the many rules that this game throws on to an already complex RPG. Now, I want to restate what I stated at the beginning of this video. There is no way to solo play badly. Hey, this book even says that you don't have to follow all of its complex rules. You can just pick and choose whatever rules you like. After all, who's going to stop you? A lot of solo players, myself included, usually just pick and choose from these engines what things we like, kind of molding them into our very own custom, unique engines that we can use based off the experience that we want out of this hobby. It's a part of what makes the hobby so cool. But playing solo, actually playing it, rolling some dice, and jotting down some notes can definitely feel odd until you find your groove, what rhythm you like in a solo RPG. If you are brand new to solo gaming, I definitely do not recommend this third category as a starting point. Try either of these two categories first and see if you actually enjoy what solo gaming is. Although that definitely didn't stop me, and I can't really expect it to stop you, so you've been warned and I've done my job. Can playing solo games replace playing group games? No, it can't. But I also don't think that's really the point. As I've tested a bunch of these systems just to see what the deal is, I've realized just how relaxing they can be. When you play solo, it's just you and your own thoughts, and some rules and advice on how to inject randomness and chaos into those thoughts. These rules help take your thoughts in new directions that you probably wouldn't have otherwise considered. In an era of human history where it seems like everything is fighting for your attention, maybe this hobby can help you take back some time to yourself. Gaming in a group is still definitely my preferred way to play, but I will happily add this new playstyle to my ever-growing list of hobbies. It also means people like me and people like you can buy a ton more RPG books from nerd stores and not feel as bad about buying them. Thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Gage, this has been The RiDE, and I'll see you next time.